You can do everything right. Save every month, invest like clockwork, never miss a single deposit. And for years, it can still feel like you are getting nowhere. The balance barely moves, the growth is invisible. Then you cross one specific number, and the whole thing changes. Almost overnight, your money starts carrying its own weight, and then more than its own weight. That number is $100,000. And the reason the first one takes forever, while the next ones fly, has nothing to do with luck or timing. It is just math. Let me show you the numbers. First, let me be clear about what we are counting. Not your house, not your car, just money you have actually invested. Money sitting in a 401k, an IRA or an index fund. The stuff that can grow on its own. Charlie Munger, the investor who helped build Berkshire Hathaway, said it bluntly at a Berkshire shareholder meeting back in the late 1990s. The first $100,000 is a B, but you got to do it. After that, he said, you can ease off the gas a little. And here is the engine behind that whole idea. Over the long run, the US stock market has returned about 10% a year on average. After inflation, call it closer to 7. Hold on to that 10%, because here is the strange part. 10% of a small pile is almost nothing. 10% of a big pile can beat your salary. Same return, completely different life. Before I show you the numbers and the psychology, do me a quick favor and hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people. So why does that first small pile take so long to build, while everything after it feels easy? In the early years, you are doing all the heavy lifting yourself. Picture your first $10,000 invested. A good year in the market, say 10%, adds $1,000, $1,000. Meanwhile, you might have put in $6,000 of your own money that year, saving $500 a month. So your own sweat did almost all the work and the market barely showed up. That is the part nobody warns you about. For the first few years, you are the engine. Your portfolio is just along for the ride. And it feels brutal because your brain expects a straight line. You figure that if you save twice as long, you should see twice as much. That is just not how this works. Compounding does not move in a straight line. It crawls, then it bends, then it launches. Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money, describes it perfectly. For about 10 years it feels boring. Around 20 years it starts to get interesting. By 30 or 40 years, it turns into something that looks impossible. So if your account feels stuck in wet cement right now, you are not doing anything wrong. You are just early. You are in the slow part of the curve, the part where your savings matter way more than your returns. And almost everybody who quits right here. Pay attention to this next part because this is where everything flips. Let me put real numbers on it. Say you invest $500 a month, every month, and the market does its long run 10%. Starting from zero, your first $100,000 takes about 10 years. 10 long years of grinding. Now watch what happens next. Your second 100,000 going from 100 to 200,000 takes about 5 years. Half the time. Your third 100,000 takes about 3 years. Same $500 a month. Same market. The only thing that changed is the size of the snowball you are already rolling. So why does it speed up like that? Because of something called the crossover point. It is the moment your investments earn more in a year than you put in. At $100,000, a 10% year adds $10,000 on its own. You only contributed $6,000. So now the market is outworking you. Your money has officially become a second you, a second version of you that shows up every single day, never takes a sick day, never asks for a raise, and quietly earns money right beside your paycheck. And every single year, that second you get a raise, automatically. At 200,000, that same 10% is 20,000 a year. At 300,000, it is 30,000 a year. The bigger the base, the more the market does, while your contribution stays exactly the same. Think about that for a second. You did not get a promotion. You did not start picking better investments. You kept doing the same boring thing, and the results got bigger every year, all on their own. The math just finally tipped onto your side. Up to that tipping point, you are the one carrying the weight. After it, the market takes over. So the real question is simple. Why do so few people ever make it across? A few reasons, and they are all very human. The first is that the early progress is basically invisible, so it feels pointless. The second is lifestyle creep. As you earn more, you spend more, and the extra money that should have been invested just vanishes into a nicer car and a bigger apartment. Munger's whole point was that you have to consistently spend less than you make. That is the boring little secret underneath all of it. Now, to be fair, the slow years really are slow. This is not all in your head. Anyone who started investing in the year 2000 and kept at it for the next 10 years watched the US stock market actually lose money over that entire decade, roughly 1% a year in the red, according to Dimensional Fund Advisors. A full decade of showing up and getting almost nothing back. That is real, and it is hard. But here is what those people quietly earned. They were buying shares cheap that whole time, and when the market finally turned, all those cheap shares compounded like crazy. The last reason people stall is the most painful one. They quit, or they cash out, right before the curve bends. A 30% drop on a $40,000 account feels terrifying, so they sell and walk away. If you stop here, this becomes a completely different story, and not a good one. But this is bigger than just one milestone. The first 100,000 is slow on purpose. It is the foundation. And the good news is, it is also the part you have the most control over. Early on, your savings do almost all the work, not the market. So the way to reach it faster is simple. Get more money in, sooner. Start with the easy win. If your job offers a 401k match, take every bit of it. That is free money. An instant return on your cash before the market does anything. And skipping it is like turning down a raise. Next, automate everything. Set your investing to pull straight from your paycheck before the money ever hits your hands so you cannot talk yourself out of it on a scary week. And as your income grows, push your contributions up with it. Go from $500 a month to $1,000, and your first 100,000 can show up in about 6 years instead of 10. Every extra dollar you add early gets the most time to compound, so the early ones count the most. And even on a more cautious 7% return after inflation, the same pattern holds. It just takes a little longer, slow, then fast. If you ever doubt that this boring, automatic approach really works, look at Ronald Reed. He was a gas station attendant and a part-time janitor in small-town Vermont who never earned a big paycheck. He just bought solid companies and held them for decades. When he died in 2014, his family was stunned to learn he had quietly built a fortune of around $8 million, and he left most of it to his local library and hospital. He was no genius. He simply gave compounding enough time. And even Warren Buffett built about 99% of his wealth after he turned 50. The money was always there, it just needed decades to wake up. And do not let anyone tell you $100,000 is small. The median American household net worth is about $193,000, according to the Federal Reserve, and most of that is locked inside home equity you cannot actually spend. Strip the house out, and the typical household has well under $60,000 in real, usable money. So $100,000 invested, money that is liquid and growing, quietly puts you ahead of most of the country. And here is the part worth holding on to. It is not really about the 100 grand itself. It is about what crossing it proves. It proves the system works, that your discipline turns into momentum, and that you can finally stop pushing and start riding. Remember that feeling from the very start, where the balance barely moves and the growth feels invisible? That invisible stretch is not the system failing you. It is the system loading up. The snowball's tiny at the top of the hill, and it always feels like it will never roll. Then one day it does, and it does not stop. Charlie Munger spent his whole life proving that the boring early years are the entire game. Not because the first 100,000 is large, but because it is the hardest. And the hardest part is the part that builds everything after it. You do not have to be brilliant. You do not have to time anything perfectly. You just have to stay in the seat long enough for the math to wake up. So if you are still in the slow climb right now, doubting it even matters, keep going. The hardest 100,000 is the one you are working on today, and every dollar you add is one more turn closer to the top of the hill. And before you go, a quick favour. If this gave you a little more patience for the slow part, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who is grinding toward their first 100,000 and needs to hear that it is worth it. Then tell me where you are in the comments. If you have already crossed your first 100,000, how long did it actually take you? And if you are not there yet, what number are you working toward right now? Drop it below, because seeing that other people are on the exact same climb is sometimes the thing that keeps you going.